Okay, Lori, so can you tell us who you are and just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Lori Nova-Endres, and I started a little studio back in, gosh, like around 2000. And I teach people how to make natural bath and body products. I had a physical in-person studio in Point Richmond, California for about 12 years, and then transitioned to an online teaching format for the most part because I'm in Ohio now. So I still do some private lessons and um, class type things here, but my main business is now online.
Okay, and how did you get into the bath and body industry?
It was really after I got my master's degree. I was looking for a teaching job and I couldn't find one at the time. I was living in Point Richmond, the future location of the Nova studio. And I just really was looking for something to make friends and family natural gifts and also something that would just be satisfying, a fun hobby, something to be able to connect with like-minded people who are interested in making natural products as well. So that's really how it started, was through kind of a desire for a hobby and something that would result in natural, sustainable gifts.
Okay, and what do you most enjoy about being in this type of work?
Really, the main thing is the people, establishing relationships, getting to know students such as yourself. You're an original OG Nova Studio person who I think knew me even before I had the Nova Studio, or you found out about me and through Juniper Tree, right?
Yeah.
And I really just, making products is great and sharing that knowledge is great, but it's really the relationships and the people that I get to meet and connect with that I think really is my driving force.
Okay, okay. And would you say that there's anything about your background prior to starting up the Nova Studio that kind of positioned you to be able to be successful in this type of work?
Well, I ended up creating a business that is all around teaching people how to make natural bath and body products. So I think the only thing that really led up to that, I mean, my degree, both my bachelor's and my master's, is in speech communications. So according to that, I should be like teaching some kind of college level communication courses. But since I had a hard time finding that type of a job, and then I picked up the hobby in the meantime, it just kind of, put me on a course that was a little bit, it was unexpected, honestly, but I just kind of kept following my passion. And I thought, well, if I was looking for other classes in the area and I couldn't find any, then I thought, well, maybe other people are looking for that as well. So it's kind of weird, but I really created a business that I was looking for, something as a person learning how to make their own natural bath and body products. I I couldn't find anything, and so I ended up creating it.
Okay. So, and then with you teaching like a wide range of products, you have things from like hydro. Do you teach hydrosols? Because I know you have other teachers that you work with that offer those. Do you teach those too?
No, Alice was the one that would do hydrosols,
Okay.
which are like, the distillate water for essential oil making. Um, we had a little simplified, she had a class on a simplified method on how to do it at home, but it wasn't on a large scale. It was more for
Okay.
like, personal use. But yeah, so I don't do hydrosols, but yeah, everything from, fizzy bath bombs, shower steamers, lotions and creams. Cold processed soap is one of my biggest topics,
Mhm.
one of my favorite things. Also, natural perfumery. Um, what else? I mean, lots of classes that used to teach at the Nova Studio. I don't have them all as video classes now, but some of those that I mentioned are ones that I do. Oh, body butters is another one.
Yeah. So, when you are deciding on ingredients, on a recipe for a product, what is your process for curating those recipes?
I guess in kind of the same way that I created a business around what I was looking for as a student, I think I create recipes just out of my own personal need, the need of myself and my family, and then also my friends and my family, my extended family. So, for instance, my son is now 13, but, I've been making products for like 25 years. So, prior to having a child, I was having a lot of friends that had babies. And so I developed a class on all natural baby products. It was like a talc-free baby powder, a gentle milk bath, and what was the third product? Powder, milk bath, and baby oil, like a massage oil, to connect with your baby and just have it be
Hmm.
all natural. And so I started making those because I wanted to give my friends who were having babies, like, just, you start learning about the dangers of things like talc in body powders. It's very bad for the respiratory, and it can, I think they've linked it to cancer now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't usually like, talking about, toxic products and this and that, but everybody knows that natural products, for the most part, are more healthy if they're made properly. But certain things really have come out as like, yes, this causes cancer. And talc is one of them. And another one is, not that it causes cancer, but a harmful ingredient to babies would be like, mineral oil, right? Which is what baby oil is. Like baby powder, Johnson and Johnson baby powder is talc based. Johnson and Johnson baby oil is 100% mineral oil. And mineral oil, I'm not saying that causes cancer, but if it's inhaled accidentally by a baby or a child, which has happened, it's very, very harmful and could actually kill them because it like suffocates. It's a hydrocarbon type of a product, and it's a petroleum industry byproduct. And so it's just harmful to have in a nursery or around babies if they can, get into it. I think they have to have like childproof lid now was the legislation that came out of that. But I just thought, gosh, the two, common things that almost every parent probably had when I was growing up in the nursery is baby powder and baby oil. You trust, big companies like Johnson and Johnson that have been around for like probably 100 years. So I thought, gosh, and I started to research. I thought, gosh, you can make a baby powder without talc, and you can make a baby oil with natural oils like sweet almond oil and olive oil or apricot oil or jojoba. Like you can make your own mix and put just a touch of very gentle essential oils in there like lavender and chamomile. So
yeah.
this is kind of, I think, where I get my inspiration from for the products I want to make, is by my own desire for things, and also, and just you get inspired by what you see out there, when new products come on the market. But yeah, it's really just personal need and friends and family need.
Okay. And so, with there being like a huge boom with like the DIY skincare industry or yeah, well, just DIY bath and body type industry. I mentioned before, there's a lot of different things that you see out there. And of course, a person that's just walking up and noticing ingredients on the back of someone's product or whatever have you, you're not able to just open your mouth and say, this isn't true, that isn't true. But let's just say something like, picking up a bottle of lotion and it says that it has like strawberry essential oil in there. And I actually talked to a maker who under believed that her fragrance oil was an essential oil. So I didn't, want to have the conversation. I just kind of left it alone. So what do you recommend for people that are desiring to get into the industry and they just want to go on their own with downloading materials, or even there's even recipes out there that'll say use the oil of your choice, use the fragrance of your choice. What do you recommend for people that are looking to get in the industry, and as far as them using products that are skin safe, that are, what are your recommendations?
Yeah, it's interesting because now someone like myself 25 years ago who was looking to make their own products, the internet, there was some information about out there and some free recipes and things, but it was kind of hard to find. The best information I could find was in books, and the second you put something in a book, it gets a little bit outdated. But there are kind of, books where people teach about oils or herbs or essential oils, and as long as like it's a reputable author, and you can look on Amazon, it has good reviews. That's usually a place you can get solid information from. But now it's almost the opposite problem, right? Where there's so much information out there. There's so many people who are savvy with marketing and, all the things that I'm really not. But they're putting information out there that, as you know, is either, only partly true or is just straight up false, right? Like fruity essential oils, like strawberry or mango or whatever. So it is kind of hard. I mean, I would just say try to find a reputable teacher, and don't believe everything you see online, I talk to a lot of people who um, are kind of overwhelmed by the amount of information out there. And, I do consulting, like, over Zoom, like we're talking here. And, I do as little as 1 hour because we can really cover a lot in an hour. And if you list all your questions and, we have some communication, some back and forth before starting. And, if you just put everything down that you have a question about, we can cover a lot. That's usually on like very specific questions that somebody would have. Or if I have either a class handout, which is like a written document, a PDF, or if I have a video class, which is the PDF plus some supported videos that I've made, um, then I'll, point them to that because for bang for your buck, you can get, the most information from one of our video e-classes or one of our handouts. But sometimes after people get those, they'll want to go off in a different direction or they'll have additional questions about ingredients or things that they see. Like one example is somebody contacted me recently and they learned how to make lotions and creams from my video e-class, but they wanted to do goat's milk in them because they make a goat's milk soap that they really like. And I just, they emailed me and I just said, I just don't recommend it. It's, anything you put in a lotion or cream that's water based or, has a liquid that could grow things, it just makes it extremely hard to preserve. And I really worry about a lot of the people that are selling those types of products, like goat's milk lotions and creams. And I really don't, there are a lot of products out there that you really can't trust. Even if they're on the shelf at Whole Foods, you would think that you can trust them. But you have to be particularly careful with products that are water based, right? Anything that has like aloe vera, water, hydrosols, anything in it that's hydrated, that's like the birthplace of all bacteria, right? Is like a water based product. Most of the things that I teach people how to make are anhydrous products, which means they don't have water or a water based component. And, like the face masks I did this past weekend, they're dry. They're herb powders, dried clay powders, some fruit extracts, but there's no water in them. And that's why, because it keeps, it keeps that out of there. So I would say that's if you're trying to learn how to make something like a lotion or a cream that's water based or something that's a little more complex, like cold processed soap, right, from scratch, where you have to use lye. I'd say those are the ones where it's really important to get somebody who's knowledgeable to learn from them because that's really where you can have like safety concerns either while you're making it or in the end result product. If we're making these products for our friends and family that we love, the last thing we want to do is give them some sort of a problem, irritate their skin or, worst case scenario, give them some sort of an infection, like I see people doing eye creams and they just look like really small companies and you just know that they don't have the budget to do testing. So I would not trust to put anything around my eyes that was water based that I didn't know was a big enough company that was doing like a lot of testing.
Okay. So when you're doing the powder mask, that way a person can take it and add their liquids on their own, like separate from the container.
And they
Okay.
do that right before they're about to use it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to dive into the body care industry, what would you recommend they start with? Of course, it would have to line up with what their passion is. So if they're wanting to do soaps, butters, because some people want to get in and do everything at once, what do you feel like is
Yeah.
a good starting place as far as like a type of product that would introduce them to carriers and introduce them to actives
Mhm.
and inactives that they can kind of, take over to the next? What would you say would be a good starting place?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it really depends on what products they most are excited about. Like, what
Okay.
products do you most want to use and make? Soap making from scratch is a very involved process. And, it takes you make it on one day and then you have to leave it in the mold for a couple of days and then you unmold it. And then I leave mine dry for another day and then I cut it and then it sits there for 4 to 6 weeks to cure. So
Mhm.
it's a very long process. And when I learned how to make that type of soap, I was like, I'm not patient enough for this right now. So I left it. That was the very first class I ever took was cold process soap. So I left it. I went to the melt and pour soap, which is more like, instant gratification where you're using a base. You're not really making soap, you're more crafting it. And then later I came back to the cold process when I was ready for it. But some of the first products that I learned how to make that are very easy and very accessible and also kind of fun are like bath salts or bath soaks, right? So different combinations of salts, herb, maybe a few herbs, some milk powders or something like that. Again, dry in a container. Those are really fun. Face masks are also really fun and pretty easy. I'm working on doing like an in-person class for busy moms who just want to do a little self-care.
Yeah.
So face masks are great. Um, I think natural perfumery is a really fun one as well
Yeah.
because,
Mhm.
if you do like a roll-on in an oil bottle, even though my e-class for that, people think, oh, why would I take an online perfumery class? I can't smell anything. So it is kind of tricky, but you're going to get a lot of the foundational basics. Even though, you're not going to be able to smell all the wonderful oils, but perfumery, that's another one that I think is pretty easy and accessible, and specifically the roll-ons with oil based. I do jojoba as the base because it lasts a really long time. So I would say get into the roll-on. So you could either do aromatherapy or you could do for perfumery, but both with essential oils.
Okay, okay. And then really quickly, what about regulatory hurdles with people getting into this industry? Is that something, because I know like it's a lot of this industry is not regulated, but then some of it is. It just kind of depends. What are your recommendations for that for someone starting off?
So I'm in Ohio. There are no specific regulations that would prohibit me from making products at home and selling them. There's an assumption that all products are like clean and free from anything that's harmful. So there's an assumption there. But you could have a home-based business, I believe, in Ohio. But different states are different, so you really have to look at the state for where you live and see if there are any specific recommendations for bath and body product makers. And beyond that, the main regulation that people have to be aware of is if you're going to be selling your products, you're going to need to have proper labeling. And that's why I was so thrilled to work with Marie Gale, who's an author of several different soap and cosmetic labeling books. And it's a really like dense topic, and her books are great. But I've read the books and it's like, oh, but I have this question and I have that question. So I worked with Marie together a couple of years ago to put together a really great e-class on soap and cosmetic labeling that kind of breaks it down, like from the person who doesn't know about labeling to the expert who does. And I'm really proud of that. So that's if you're, looking for a specific resource for soap and cosmetic labeling, we have an e-class for that. But really, it's just making sure you have good clean products, that you have enough knowledge before you start selling. Use yourself and your friends and family as guinea pigs, and have them try your products. Of course, I would try all the products on myself. But once you've tried it and you feel like it's safe as much as then I would ask your friends and family to sample it and then give you feedback.
Okay, okay. I feel like that the regulations course, because I think I have that one. I'm pretty sure I do, but I feel like that one will kind of prepare you for being able to get relationships with stores because there's certain like there's certain packaging details that have to be present, like where the numbers are and things like that. I feel like that course would kind of, do you feel like that course, like, because there's you have to be prepared. Do you feel like that's one that will prepare you to, I don't know if you call it shop stores or whatever you call it, but do you feel like
Yeah.
that?
Well, it's not specific to like wholesaling
Yeah.
or anything like that, but it is what exactly needs to be on the label in terms of title, font size, net weight. Are you doing it by weight? Are you doing it by volume? Is it different for lotions than it is for fizzy bath bombs than it is for soap? And the answer is yes, it's different. So we have these like quick summary sheets that it's like what type of product and it tells you specifically. So that is like no matter where you're selling it, that's what it's going to have to sort of have on it. But if you're selling it to someone who's then repackaging it, that I'm not sure about.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but it's just an area that confuses a lot of people, and I thought, gosh, I would really love to have an e-class on that.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled that we have it, and we also have one on preservation, which is the tricky area of anything water-based, and that's with Dr. Cindy Jones of Colorado Aromatic. She's one of our teachers, and she has a company called Sage Script Institute where she does some product testing for small makers. And again, it's just an education on like, what types of things can grow in your products. You've got yeast, bacteria, mold, and fungus, like four different categories of things that
Okay.
you need to keep out of your products. And preservation is a very sort of next level type of a thing. It wouldn't necessarily be for a beginner, but if you have any thought that you want to sell lotions or creams and they are water based and you're making them, I think it's an absolute like a must course. And then from there you can decide, oh, okay, I get this, but I I don't think I want to make those. Some
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that and it'll be the best like $60 you ever spent. That e-class is like $59, I think, right now. Um, it'll be the best money you ever spent if you are
Hmm.
educated and you realize, gosh, there's a lot more to this than I thought there was.
Hmm.
Or if you go, okay, I'm going to understand this and then I'm going to use this as a platform to a jumping off point to continue to dive deeper. We don't have any additional courses on it, but it starts you out like all of our classes assume, unless it's a second level, but most of them assume that you don't know anything. So we start from the very beginning. And, I think that's really important just to, you don't know what people know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do see in like Facebook groups, for instance, there's a lot of misinformation. And
Yeah.
it's a little bit like, oh gosh, I hope that person's not selling.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, before we go, I wanted to, well, okay, so another thing about you is that you have some of your clients that have like done like started huge businesses from coming with
Yeah.
you. I feel like there's one girl, I don't know if I could say her name or not, but I think one girl, I think I saw her products in Target and I remember
Mm,
her. But I see a lot of people like all over the place because I remember being
yeah.
in your courses and people were flying in from all over the world to take your classes. Are there any like super noteworthy achievements that you want to share about, things you've accomplished, maybe students or just things that you want to share? And then any last word that you want to leave with us before you take off?
Yeah, I I think it's a little tricky in my business because when people learn how to make things with the Nova Studio and with me, they don't necessarily want to broadcast, oh, this is where I learned, because then they might think that their competition is going to go there and learn.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily something that people plaster all over
Yeah.
everything, which I totally understand that. So I'm not like going around like saying these are all my clients
Mhm.
and look what they're doing. I mean, countless though, probably over 100 people have come to my studio and either started businesses or they already had a business and they expanded their business or, you know, got more education. And it does bring me a lot of joy and satisfaction to know that I've contributed in some way, like yourself,
Yeah.
starting to make products and then having a business. Like I love that. I absolutely love that. So yeah, I think, it's just for me, for whatever reason, I just like to stay in the lane of the teaching. I only have so much time. I can't do everything. So my business is focused on the teaching versus having a product line myself.
Hmm.
So I don't have that. But yeah, most of my students like are doing it either for like I would call serious hobbyists, you know,
Yeah.
or those who want to make their own products.
Okay. Okay. And anything you want to leave us with before we go?
It was really lovely seeing you, Kionda. Thank you for asking me to join you today. And you know how to reach me if you want to follow up or get together for another chat. Like I'm happy
Yeah.
to do that. But yeah, just I appreciate the opportunity to share about the Nova Studio and about what we do. And yeah, just thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Lori, and enjoy the rest of your day. Okay.
Okay, thanks you too.